Welcome back to the Tour Today show. My name is Steve Fleck. Every day there is racing at the Tour. We will talk about the highs and the lows, the thrills and the spills, the tragedies and the triumphs at the Tour, aka La Grande Boucle. On each episode of the Tour Today, I have a special guest on the show with me. Today, I'm pleased to have with me an associate professor at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario. She has a PhD in cognitive neuroscience. Her area of research is on the impact of high-intensity exercise on brain health. Welcome, Dr. Jennifer Heisz.
Hello, glad to be here.
It's Jen, right? I can call you Jen.
You can call me Jen.
I don't have to call you Dr. Heisz. Okay,
it's fine.
We're very informal here, Jen. This is awesome. Thank you for being with us, and thank you everyone who has tuned in to the Tour Today show. If you have any questions for me or input, probably the best place to reach me is on my Twitter page. You can find me at Steve Fleck. Jen, where can they find you on social media?
At on social media, on the web, I'm at neurofitlab.ca,
okay,
or at Jennifer Heisz on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yes, and you and I, we have exchanged a few tweets back and forth over the time, so we are Twitter friends. Jen, just sit tight. I'm going to sum up the action today on stage 17 of the Tour de France. It was an eventful stage, as we thought it would be. It was the Queen stage, what they call the Queen stage of the Tour de France. Two massive mountain climbs, each climb about 20 kilometers length. They went over the Col de Madeleine and then the Col de Luz, a mountaintop finish, going up over 20% ramps at the finish. Jen, that's some pretty high intensity exercise to go up a 20% ramp of a road at the end of a stage. The big news overnight was Egan Bernal, the defending champion, unfortunately had to pull out of the Tour. He's not been looking good for the last few stages, and he had to pull out. The Bahrain McLaren team rolled tempo on the front, up and over the Madeleine and up 2/3 of the way up the Col de Luz to set up Mikel Landa, their GC favorite, but that all kind of backfired on them. The big winner on the day, Miguel Angel Lopez for the Astana team. He's a great Colombian climber, and he showed his class today going up to the altitude of 2,300 meters, breaking away from the GC group and winning the stage. Primož Roglič was able to stay in the yellow jersey, and he was able to extend his lead over the young Slovenian sensation Tadej Pogačar by a few seconds. Pogačar still sits in second place. The big loser on the day was Rigoberto Urán. Urán started the day in third place and dropped back to sixth overall in the GC yellow jersey competition. Interesting side story was Alejandro Valverde riding in support for his teammate Enric Mas. Valverde riding himself into a great place. He's in the top 10. He's in 10th spot now in the overall. And Valverde most likely targeting the UCI Road World Championships coming up at the Imola racetrack in Italy in a few weeks. He is a former World Road Race champion, and he is turning himself into great form here in the Tour. Quick summary of the jerseys. As I mentioned, Primož Roglič in first spot. Miguel Angel Lopez, the big winner on the day, moving up into third spot. Pogačar, the Slovenian sensation. Roglič, also a Slovenian sensation. Imagine 2 million people live in Slovenia, and they have two riders in first and second in the Tour de France. So it's Roglič, Pogačar, Lopez, 1, 2, 3 in the yellow jersey. No change in the green jersey. Sam Bennett still in the lead. Peter Sagan chasing points, as well as Matteo Trentin. That might come down right to that final sprint on the Champs-Élysées in Paris in a few days. White jersey, Tadej Pogačar remains in the white jersey, is the best young rider. He's only 21. Amazing what he is doing here at this Tour de France. In the KOM, now this is a big change. Pogačar takes over the polka dot jersey. Roglič in second. There were massive points available in the King of the Mountains jersey today because this was the highest point that the Tour will reach at 2,300 meters at the summit of the Col de Luz. So big points on the KOM handed out today. So Pogačar will take over the polka dots. Roglič in second. Lopez in third, and Benoit Cosnefroy, the young French rider who's been riding so well in polka dots, had to finally, after many, many days in polka dots, had to relinquish that jersey. He's now back in fourth spot. Teams, Movistar still in first spot in the team competition. Stage 18 tomorrow, another massive mountain stage, they will be going over 4 huge climbs, another 168 kilometers. Interesting, today was 168 kilometers, tomorrow exactly 168 kilometers. They'll be riding from Mirabel to La Roche-sur-Forain. And as I mentioned, it is a brutal stage. Looks like a classic sawtooth if you look at the profile, up and over 4 mountain climbs. The intermediary sprint comes early. It's only 20 kilometers in, so it will be a fast and furious start. The Bora-Hansborough team, CCC team trying to set up Peter Sagan and Matteo Trentin to try and get back more points on the green jersey that is still held by Dunasek Quick-Step's Sam Bennett. Back to you, Jen. You are doing some amazing and fascinating research on brain health. Give us a quick layperson sort of summary of what you're doing, Jen.
Sure. I direct the NeuroFit Lab at McMaster University, and we study the impact of exercise on the brain health in sort of 3 main areas. So the first area is the benefits of exercise for cognition. And we primarily study this in the classroom. So using short exercise breaks of like 5 minutes to help students refocus their attention. It reduces their mind wandering and improves their test performance. So we have this fun saying in the lab, sweat so you don't forget. The second area of research that we cover in the lab is related to exercise and mental health. And this is a very important topic right now, especially during the pandemic. We're seeing huge increases in mental illness, even in people who have never experienced a mental illness before. And this is because stressful times in our life can cause anxiety and depression, even if we've never experienced that before. But the great thing is that exercise can actually help buffer these stress-induced effects. And we've shown that exercise can prevent depression and anxiety by reducing the level of inflammation in the body. So that's kind of an interesting biological mechanism there. And finally, the third area that we cover is on dementia prevention. So using exercise to prevent Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So age and genetics definitely contribute to dementia, but many people underestimate the effect of exercise and lifestyle factors. And in fact, exercise is one of the greatest modifiable risk factors. And in my lab, we've shown that people who are physically inactive have a comparable risk to developing dementia as those who are genetically predisposed. So you could be born with a healthy set of genes, but make it really bad for you yourself by not exercising. And so we have another saying in the lab, you can't change your genes, but you can change your lifestyle.
So it is that classic use it or lose it phenomena that people talk about so much when it comes to training and fitness then, as it applies to the mental aspect as well.
Absolutely. It's not, this is a real key message that we like to say, you know, exercise is not just good for the body, it's good for the brain too. And we hope by promoting this idea that it will inspire more people to be active, especially during times like these when it is more difficult to be active and you have to really seek it out to get it in.
So what is it about the higher intensity exercise, Jen, the term that everyone uses, the HITS, and that's an acronym for HITS, a high intensity exercise. What is specific about that is more beneficial than, you know, just going for a walk?
Yeah, so high intensity interval training, or HIIT, it's a really popular form of exercise, but it does take many different forms. So for example, the stage today and tomorrow with the intense hill climbs followed by cruising down the hill and repeating that counts as a HIIT workout.
Okay.
So does picking up the pace, you know, between points and then easing back off. So these are hallmark of HIIT training, and we've studied the effects of HIIT on memory function in the lab. So in one study, we looked at young adults. So we took sedentary young adults and we brought them into the lab for 6 weeks. And they exercised 3 times per week for the 6 weeks. And the protocol we used was cycling. So they had 1 minute at high intensity, which was around 90 to 95% of their max heart rate. Yeah. Followed by 1 minute recovery, and they repeated that 10 times. And what we found was after the 6 weeks of training, their memory improved by 10%. which is incredible for already, high functioning young adults.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to test this in older adults too. So this time we brought them into the lab. We brought them in for a bit longer, for 12 weeks, and changed the HIIT protocol a bit. So instead of doing it on the bike, they did it on the treadmill, and they did a 4-minute incline, so walking up a hill for 4 minutes, followed by a 3-minute recovery, and they repeated that 4 times. And same thing, we found incredible benefits to memory, and in fact, for the older adults, the benefits were greater. They were 30% better after the exercise training.
Wow. So you're following up with cognitive tests, afterwards to sort of, figure this out. So what would you say to and you find this even in, people who are reasonably athletic or fit. What do you say to those people where they're talking about, you're going to injure yourself if you go too hard, or you strain or stress yourself too much? What do you say to those sorts of people when they say that?
Yeah, there is a lot of fear about injury or re-injury from the higher intensity. And I think it's really important to keep in mind that high intensity is relative to your fitness level. So what's high intense for you may not be high intense for me. What's high intense for a younger adult is probably too intense for an older adult. And it's so very relative to your fitness level. The key thing with HIIT and brain function has to do with sort of the on and off of it. So, you go on at more intense, and then you ease off, and then you restart the system again, and then you ease off. And that seems to be very special because it promotes this brain fertilizer called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Wow.
And this helps increase the growth, functioning, and survival of brain cells in the brain region called the hippocampus, which is critical for memory function. And it also happens to be the brain region that's devastated by Alzheimer's disease. And so this is believed to be why HIIT is so beneficial for the brain, because it increases the BDNF fertilizer to help that region of the brain really function better.
So does it have to be, like, I know a classic workout for, say, a cyclist or a triathlete, say they're working out indoors on their trainer in the winter, they warm up a little bit, and then they'll do a series of intervals, maybe go for a minute hard, 2 minutes easy, or, whatever the length of time is, but they're going hard, then they're recovering. That type of workout, then they warm down. It's about an hour long in total. So they're doing some endurance, but they're also doing some high intensity there as well. What's different from that than, say, someone going to the gym and doing a weight workout where they're, they're lifting, going arm weights or leg weights? Is there a difference, or is it all kind of the same in terms of its like intensity and the benefits of it?
Yeah, it seems so. Most of the research on exercise and brain health have been done in aerobic exercise, so endurance sports. But there does seem to be similar benefits found with resistance exercise as well. And partly it has to do with the increase in lactate from the intense exercise. And that can be from stimulating the muscles either with aerobic endurance exercise or with resistance exercise.
So cycling, I mean, and you were seeing this, in when they're riding in the Tour de France, and I think you summed it up perfectly in terms of a stage like today where they're going up a massive mountain climb. It's pretty intense for, 15 minutes, 20, 30 minutes going up, and then they're kind of off. They're literally coasting downhill for another 20 or 30 minutes and then going sort of hard again. A sport like cycling or running or any of the sort of the endurance sports where the terrain, builds in that intensity and then backs it off is almost perfect for this, is what you're saying.
It is perfect. Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. And they get this additional boost in the brain fertilizer to improve their memory.
Brain fertilizer. I love that term. That's a great one. I think everyone can understand that. That's a perfect for sort of the lay person to sort of figure out. And speaking of lay messaging, I mean, we're generally encouraged when you look at sort of PSAs and messages and, articles, it's generally encouraging, people to be more active. Just overall, just be more active and it'll be better. But I've yet to see any of what your research has or other researchers are doing in this specific area in terms of a PSA. Is that still to come? That maybe in years to come we would see more specific information about this in a PSA or out there in the public domain?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because a lot of the public are not active, right? And so the public service announcement is that, anything is better than nothing.
Right.
And to get people moving. But in terms of public awareness around exercise and brain health, we are trying to get more guidelines out and getting more information out to the public to motivate them. With respect to higher intensity interval training, like I said, a lot of people are already intimidated by exercise. And so the goal is to really get them active first and then start introducing them to the variety of exercises that we can do. So, I mean, for someone who is just starting back at exercise, simply picking up the pace between light posts during their morning walk or incorporating hills into their cycling route, these things will add intensity to their routine or to their new workout program without being too intimidating. And I think that's really a key message to the public, especially those who are new to exercise.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the age thing. So this is beneficial for young kids in terms of, in the school day. I think you had mentioned earlier that having physical activity, having high intensity physical activity. I mean, you just see kids running around in the schoolyard. They're kind of organically doing it, right? They're playing tag, they're running around, they're playing dodgeball, whatever, and then they go back in the classroom. Their ability to learn actually increases. Am I understanding that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So the kids, you're right on. The kids' play is natural hit, and they're not thinking about it. They're not thinking about it as work. They're just having fun. Yeah. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and we ran to school today, and I told her, your brain is gonna be really sharp for learning today, and she's like, am I going to get all the questions right? She was pretty excited about that. But so having activity in the morning for students helps prime their brain for learning. And then breaking up the day with exercise bouts really helps them stay focused through the day. I think a lot of schools see physical activity or PE as a waste of time from academics, but in fact it's not. It adds to what the students can learn. Absolutely.
Well, I think this needs to be worked more into the curriculum of schools, because again, it's, as you had said, physical activity is something that's almost de-emphasized, like in school programs now. After a certain point of time, it's an afterthought. Shifting to older people now. So my understanding is what you're saying is, yes, we can be genetically predisposed to dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever it is, but being physically active and specifically higher intensity physical activity almost has a prophylactic effect on that. Like it can hold off those changes to the brain.
Yeah, so the fertilizer works to help keep the cells in the hippocampus strong and protects them from the damage of Alzheimer's disease, so that the memory loss is either kept at bay or for a time being or indefinitely. So there's this really amazing capability of the brain that it can grow and regenerate itself in the memory section, but it needs exercise to be able to do that.
Yes, so important. And I'm a big promoter of this, but I almost feel, and we're getting a little off topic here, but I almost feel like we're going backwards because society is getting, less and less, active. But I think the pandemic, it was sort of the classic 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. I think more people were being active. I saw people out in my neighborhood in Aurora, just north of Toronto, who I'd never seen out walking or jogging or riding bikes. But we also know that a lot of other people just, stayed in their homes like hermits and were less active. So I don't know. The pandemic's been my sense has been a bit of a wash. I'm sure there's been some research on it, but
we did a survey on it, a Canada-wide survey, and found that aerobic exercise was down about 1 hour per week, and resistance training was down about 30 minutes per week. So it was down. I mean, I think people were getting out of their house, but perhaps just walking as opposed to doing more intense exercise or HIIT that may be potentially even more beneficial for their brain.
So the average person, how could they, incorporate this into, they're going for a walk or they're just going for a bike ride, to the store to do whatever, what could they do in that walk or that ride, to make it more beneficial, for them?
Mhm. It's pretty simple. They could, between two light posts, pick up the pace, just walk faster,
Right.
or, take that hill instead of going around it. Or, a lot of things, is taking the stairs. So if,
Yes.
let's say you're on Zoom meetings all day, maybe you do the flight of stairs a few times to break up that time to help you focus throughout the day.
That's what I always do. Sorry, not to brag, but I mean, when I'm traveling, like under normal circumstances, I'm traveling a lot of time on airplanes, a lot of airports, this, that, and the next thing, and I always take the stairs.
Yeah.
Even if I've got my carry-on bag, I kind of do the farmer's carry, carry the bag up the stairs, and I get that little burst of anaerobic activity going up the stairs as opposed to the escalator. So I'm guessing just the little things like that can make a big difference.
It does, absolutely does. And you can get there faster because no one else is taking the stairs.
There's no one on the stairs. I have the stairs to myself. It's great. Now, Jen, you're an endurance sports athlete yourself, and like everyone, you've been kind of lost for, competitive, venues this year. All the races and events canceled. You're a triathlete, but recently you did a solo Ironman that I saw on Twitter. How did that's a pretty big undertaking to do a whole Ironman by yourself on your own. How did that come about?
Yeah, it sounds crazy when you say it. And it was. So, I was scheduled to do the Ironman at Mount Tremblant. And this has been a 3-year journey for me. And you call me an endurance athlete, but I actually am very new to the sport. I just started 3 years ago, and I've really never been an athlete. But this has been my journey, and it forms the personal story to my book on exercise in the brain that ends with my heroic completion of an Ironman.
Oh, okay.
So when the race was canceled, I still had to finish the book. And so that's how the solo Ironman came about. And hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. But what I found was the resilience it takes to stick with these endurance events like an Ironman or the Tour de France. The resiliency it takes in you, that mental fortitude, it comes back to you and then some. And so since the race, my mind's been really sharp, my mood's been really positive. And so you really do get these benefits of pushing yourself to the limit on both your brain and your body. So
you did the solo Ironman. Did that sort of scratch the itch for you and fulfill everything for you? I mean, would you come back, next year, fingers crossed that we're back to sort of, maybe normal, races and events next year, and maybe you could go to Ironman Mount Tremblant to do the full Ironman there. It's an amazing race, by the way. It's one of the best Ironman races in the world. Would you come back and do it again sort of next year in a real sort of, context?
Yeah, I've signed up already. And I also this year I qualified for the World Championship in New Zealand, the 70.3.
Oh, wow.
And so that's been deferred for 2 years. So I'm in the sport for another 2 years. But I do absolutely love it. And I can't believe how incredible it gives a boost to your health, overall health, both the brain and the body. It's pretty awesome.
Well, Jen, you're a living embodiment of what your research is. I mean, I know you're busy with your research, busy with your teaching at McMaster. You've got a young child, busy household, I'm sure. So it's amazing that you do get out the door and do what you do. Thank you for taking a few minutes of time to share this wonderful research that you're doing with us today. My pleasure. Thanks, Steve. You've been watching the Tour Today show. My guest today has been Dr. Jennifer Heisz of McMaster University. Tomorrow, my guest for Stage 17 will be the co-founder and the CEO of the Turn Lab. We'll talk more about the marketing and business side of the Tour de France. I'm Steve Fleck on behalf of the whole team at Endurance Zone TV. Thank you for watching, and we will see you all back tomorrow for the Tour Today show, which will be up on the Endurance Zone website at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We'll see you all then.